everyone. I'm Wendy Davis.
And I'm Rob Vaughn. Thanks for joining us for this special report. The eyes of the nation are on Allentown because of what you see here, the arrival of the President of the United States here in the Lehigh Valley for his Main Street tour as you look live at Lehigh Valley International Airport.
That's right. We'll be bringing you live team coverage all morning of the President's visit here in the Lehigh Valley. Right now, you're looking at that live look of Lehigh Valley International Airport in Lehigh County. Air Force One looks like it just landed. You're getting a close-up of it right there. We do have a crew at the airport and crews scattered throughout the area to bring you wall-to-wall coverage. And we'll be following the President right now as he's landing. And then as he moves on to the main event, which is going to be a forum out at Lehigh Carbon Community College in Schnecksville in northern Lehigh County.
The President says he's coming here to the area to listen. Lehigh Valley is the first stop on what officials are calling the White House to Main Street Tour, or Main Street Tour for short, and to talk about how to create jobs. And that, of course, was the focus yesterday for the Big Jobs Summit in Washington. And he'll get off the plane here. We're told there is, at least we're hearing there's not much of an entourage in terms of local dignitaries to greet him here, which means, I guess, they'll get him off expeditiously and get him on his way to whatever that first stop is.
Yes.
If that's Lehigh Carbon Community College, or perhaps a stop somewhere else. We are told Allentown Metalworks might be in the works this morning. I don't know whether that comes before. Mayor Pawlowski was on our news this morning and seemed to indicate that he thought the stop at Allentown Metalworks on South 10th Street would be happening prior to the President's arrival at L-Tri-C. And if you've never heard that moniker, by the way, L-Tri-C is the common shorthand for Lehigh Carbon Community College.
And, of course, we're looking at Air Force One right now, a 747. Boeing 747 coming in here, and as you know, there are two of these planes, but they're only called Air Force One when the President's on board. So whichever one they chose for this flight, this is the Air Force One right now. You're looking at the emblem right there of the United States presidency. They're actually being told that you should watch the middle door. There's 3 doors on the plane, and the President typically will enter out of the center door, the last door reserved for the staff and for the press corps that is flying with the President. So when the stairs come up, it should go to the middle door, and that's when, and here they come, so it should go to the middle door first, and that's where we will see President Obama when he exits the plane.
All right, and the motorcade will proceed here, as we mentioned. Not sure exactly what the next stop will be, but on the agenda today, the main event is the L-Tri-C event, where he should be speaking to faculty and students and other dignitaries who have gathered there at about 11:50 or so. We'll have live coverage for you. Also, of course, you can follow this online if you are near a computer at WFMZ.com all morning, and we'll have that for you, and guests in the studio today for some analysis and commentary on what's going on each step of the way. As they start to open the doors, one of the first, the first door, the lead door is opening, so you suspect that's not the one he'll come out.
Well, that's what commonly they say he'll use the center door, but you never know. He might be using the front door.
Yes, he'll do as he pleases, I imagine.
Apparently so.
As they bring the steps up to the side of the airplane at Lehigh Valley International. And last time we saw this, it'd be back 5 years ago, 2004, the arrival of President Bush at LVI. Mr. Obama himself was here last year for a campaign appearance, which took him to Muhlenberg College in Allentown. And we go back, though, to President Bush at LVI, and then on to Kutztown he went back in 2004. I believe that's the last time we saw the President's visit to the Valley. Right.
Air Force One, of course, Clinton was here as well. And it looks like they're preparing to get the stairs in there. And they were talking about how with Air Force One traveling, they don't use any of the airport's equipment at all. They bring everything themselves, obviously, for security reasons. And they use their own stairs. They use everything. And, of course, if you were in the area of the airport, and we were talking about how you won't see many other planes this time of day, but if you did see another plane, they do fly a cargo plane carrying all of the President's motorcade. So obviously that got there first, as you can see the presidential limo pulling up. And that usually is a sign the President should be coming out shortly.
So apparently things will be brief here at the airport, and he will be on his way. He is, as I mentioned, the L-Tri-C stop, of course, is the main event on this Main Street tour for the President to listen to what people have to say about job creation and how they're doing in this rough economy. And then there's some other stops that he may well be making, perhaps a few surprise drop-in stops. Some local eateries are prepared because they've had some contact with Secret Service. and they may see him today as well. And he has what sounds like a generous window of opportunity to make a few stops, since this plane is not to leave LVI until about 4 o'clock.
Right.
Or a little bit after 4, I believe. So you'd think there's some time there.
And as you mentioned, he's going to be at LTRI-C in the afternoon. I guess around lunchtime he is scheduled to be there to talk, and there's talk of also another meeting there afterwards with some students, so that would obviously take some time. But you're right, in between now and when he is supposed to get there, there's a possibility of a stop at a local business. It sounds like he may be stopping at one of the eateries after his trip to LTRI-C, since that tends to be a lunchtime affair.
Right. Of course, the talk is jobs as we wait for the president to appear at the doorway there. A Gallup poll just out shows a little bit of what the White House is up against. Last week, Gallup poll, 55% of Americans said they didn't like the way the president is handling the jobs issue. Of course, he has much on his plate. He talked about Afghanistan just this week, and other things as well, of course, occupying him. So these are difficult times as he approaches the end of the first year of his term. And now he wants to start off this push on jobs to listen. And of course, it's a ticketed event out at LTRI-C, so just don't go running out there. In case you're just tuning in this morning, you think, let me run out to the college and see what the president has to say.
A lot of folks, no doubt, lining the roads entering up to the college, though, just to try to get a glimpse of that motorcade. And I know we have crews out for that. There are protesters out there as well, typically. And it's always interesting to see, just in the several presidential visits I've covered, where they place the protesters, because sometimes the motorcade does go by where the protesters were placed, and then other times the motorcade does not go by where the protesters are placed, and is actually not even within a distance where the president can see them. And staff will often say that's because there's several routes that are planned for the president. They won't reveal exactly which way he's going, so they can change at the last minute. And there he is.
There he is. At the top of the steps at 10:25. And now descending the steps, they're small on my screen, so I'm having a difficult time making out who he's with. He's taking off his overcoat. It's not that bad a morning. It's kind of crisp and sunny this morning in Allentown. And let's see if he does some greetings here. He has a very brief greeting, and of course, those he's greeting are obscured by the vehicle.
Yes.
And he'll be on his way from the airport. And then, of course, the question becomes, where's the first stop?
Right.
So we'll try to keep you apprised of that as best we can. But as we prepared for this and leading up to this, the White House has not been very explicit and generous, you might say, with the details of what's going on. Some things come out just dribbled out a little bit. I mean, it was even this morning that the mayor of Allentown was not entirely sure exactly when and where of some of the things the president will do today. Which
is common for security reasons.
Sure.
Is usually why they do all of that. They don't want anyone to know specifically where the president is at any time or where he'll be headed next. The Secret Service likes to keep as much of that under wraps as possible for obvious reasons.
Right. And I mentioned before the somewhat negative Gallup poll on jobs. However, the president can be buoyed by the news of the morning on unemployment, which, of course, is very germane to what he's here to talk about. The Labor Department with a report that apparently was a surprise to economists on unemployment out today, that the unemployment rate fell in November a little bit from 10.2 to 10% even, as the number of employers that cut jobs was small, much smaller than expected. The number of jobs cut, I guess, technically. Expecting 130,000 job losses, only had 11,000 job losses.
All right, you're looking at the presidential limo right now, getting ready to leave LVIA, and I'm being told that a bit of the president's itinerary has now been leaked, and we are told that he is going to the Allentown Metalworks right now. He is headed in that direction. He is scheduled to be there for a tour at 10:50 this morning, so that will be his first stop, and that is where he is going.
All right. 10:50 then for the Allentown Metalworks. All right, but then that puts him a full hour ahead of his 11:50 scheduled talk at LTRI-C. Okay, we'll fit that in. Well, whether he fits in a stop to find a bite to eat, we'll see, or maybe some other surprise stops, as presidents are want to do.
That's right.
I'm told Congresswoman Allison Schwartz, just to kind of fill out the picture a little bit, was one of the ones who came down the steps of the president there. and a couple of others, obviously, but they didn't have a lot of ceremony there at the airport. It was just on their way to the next stop.
Obviously, a schedule he is sticking to at this point. All right, as we mentioned, we do have a crew out at the airport. WFMZ's Bo Koltnow has been standing by, and he can tell us what he saw from his vantage point. Bo.
Hey, Robin, Wendy, I'm having a tough time hearing you out here, but we're going to talk about past presidential visits here to the Lehigh Valley, and you guys can see Air Force One behind me, and you saw President Barack Obama get into his motorcade, which is now heading down Postal Road. But this marks the first time a sitting president has come to the Lehigh Valley since George W. Bush came in October in 2004, when he made a campaign re-election pit stop at the Lehigh Parkway. Prior to that, President Bill Clinton came to Kutztown University in 1995, and then in 1992, President George H. Bush kept with the educational theme and stopped at Deer of High School to talk about his Education 2000 plan. Prior to that, Richard Nixon came here during his administration, and then back in October of 1948, President Harry Truman made a stop to the Lehigh Valley. So the presidential eye has definitely been on the area throughout the years, but maybe even more so for presidential candidates. You know, back in 1960, John Kennedy made a campaign stop here for his successful presidential run, and throughout the years, Michael Dukakis came to Bethlehem to make a speech, and more recently in 2000, 2004, and just last year in 2008, Senator John McCain and then presidential candidate Barack Obama came to the Lehigh Valley to give their political views and what they hope to do for the country. And the reasons are pretty clear. You know, Pennsylvania has been long known as a battleground state. We have 21 electoral votes, and many political pundits have said that the Lehigh Valley is a microcosm to the nation. And today, at least, all eyes of the nation are on the Lehigh Valley as President Barack Obama is set to make several stops along the way. And stay tuned for 69 News as we will be tracking the president throughout the day. But Robin, Wendy, so far now, it's an empty plane. President Barack Obama and his motorcade are traveling through the Lehigh Valley. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks so much, Bo.
Thank you, Bo. And destination, at least second destination, if not second or third destination this morning, is the main event at Lehigh Carbon Community College. And let's take a live look there at the scene where the president is heading. A line of people who are waiting to take their places inside Barrier Hall at L-Tri-C. And they've been out there for quite a while today.
No
Fortunately,
doubt.
it's a decent morning.
Yeah. And as we said, this is a ticketed event, and many times they hand out a lot more tickets than there are seats, obviously, because they want a full house there. So it's usually wise for people as they can get in line early to try to get inside. And unfortunately, there's always a situation where sometimes not everybody gets inside to hear the president. But it looks like they have a pretty good turnout so far. It's about an hour and a half almost until he's about to speak, and you can see there's a good size line already.
Right, got to screen everybody, slowly but surely get them in. And of course, we'll be talking to some of the protesters. They're the groups known under the umbrella of Tea Party that are all around the country right now. And of course, some of those groups here in the Valley have said they will protest in various places, not, I guess, all specified. I think maybe they wanted to add their own element of surprise to the day. And also, we're told that as opposed to some presidential visits, and most, I would think, where protesters are given a designated place to protest outside an event, in this case, we're told there has not been a specified place.
Oh, okay. So the
outside L-Tri-C. So the protesters are ad-libbing, I guess, but also, no doubt, kept back a certain distance from the building where the president will be.
No doubt. Okay.
So, all right. We're joined by a guest in the studio today. First guest analyst. We're glad to have along Dr. Chris Bork from Muhlenberg College. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Rob.
And the president's on the ground. And what does he have to do today, do you think?
Well, it's part of a broader mission. I mean, what really the president is doing here and around the country right now is trying to establish some momentum for his economic policies. This last year, the president has been really occupied with health care, most recently with the war in Afghanistan, and he's making a symbolic effort at the end of 2009, entering into 2010, to really put the economy first and foremost on his agenda. And trips like this to the Lehigh Valley, trips like this around the country as part of the listening tour are designed to symbolically say that the president is now on this issue first and foremost.
Is it heavy on the symbolism and light on the substance, or will he take actually something away from this deal?
Well, anytime a president is making a trip like this, symbolism comes first. You know, when you're making policy, it's often in the back rooms and details and looking at analysis, and not necessarily very good for television. An event like this is important in symbolizing that the president wants to hear what people are thinking. People in places like the Lehigh Valley and Allentown, that name resonates outside of Pennsylvania and outside the Lehigh Valley. It's a hard-working place, and every place type of community. And therefore, coming here first and coming here to talk about the economy has a lot of symbolic value. He wants to listen. He wants to hear what people are thinking. As you mentioned before, the Gallup polls, the Gallup numbers right now show the president is not in very good standing with Americans on his handling of this issue that Americans say consistently is their #1 priority. Above health care, above the war in Afghanistan, this is their most highly rated priority, and what he wants to see is some effort, or the public wants to see is some effort and focus on that topic.
What do you expect him to say? What are you expecting to hear from him?
Well, that's a great question. I think what you're going to hear, first of all, is that he's listening, that he wants to say that he hears, you know, the classic "I feel your pain" statement that's now become part of the American vernacular in politics is very much going to be present there, that he's listening to people and hearing. What he's going to say, I think, is that there has to be a renewed focus on not doing it the same old way, looking at ways to create jobs for a green economy, looking at ways to, why he's at a community college, for example, to retrain individuals for a changing and dynamic workforce and labor force in the United States. And in essence, you're going to hear that from the president, that the status quo won't remain a viable option anymore.
All right, thanks. So we'll be picking your brain as the morning goes on. Thanks, Dr. Borek, for that. As we've been telling you, President Obama's big event is at the L-Tri-C coming up.
And he is scheduled to hold a discussion on the economy. It's going to happen just before noon. Now, as we showed you earlier, crowds been gathering at the school all morning long, and WFMZ's Jaccii Farris Jaciel Cordoba are outside the college with more for us this morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, Wendy, Rob.
This is certainly the place to be. When you see
Sure
a
is.
lot of excitement this morning.
A lot of excitement this morning, and I forgot my coat of all things, and it's a bit chilly out here.
It is a bit chilly out here, but the people who are in line are bundled up. There are about 800 people. Let's go ahead and take a look at this line. It goes all the way from the entrance of Barrier Hall to the parking lot. About 800 people. Now, only a fraction of L-Tri-C students are going to be inside. The college held a lottery of about 200 tickets. Now, we spoke with several of the students before today. They all have a lot of questions they'd like to ask the president, especially about the economy and the job market. Many are getting ready to go out there and get their first jobs. They'd like to find out exactly what the president's plan will do to help them get sustainable jobs. Now, of course, we will bring you that reaction. Once the speech is over, we'll talk to those students and see if some of their questions were answered. President Obama chose L-Tri-C as the first stop on his listening tour because of his belief community colleges are a key factor in economic recovery. Back in July, the president pledged to increase funding to community colleges by about $12 billion. The president says educating people who have lost a job and getting them back into the workforce as soon as possible is a major priority. He says community colleges are a perfect way to do it because they can do it quickly and they offer a diverse range of opportunities. Now, since the economy tanked, community colleges like L-Tri-C and Northampton County Community College have reported sharp increases in enrollment, and there are also a lot of new programs that are popping up to help people who have been displaced from their jobs in this very tough economy. Now, the question on many of the minds of the people who are waiting to get inside, as well as the questions on the minds of people that I spoke to at the Ham Fam last night who are excited about a possible presidential visit. Where are all the jobs that we heard were going to be coming? Well, again, they're hoping to get some answers from that, and these people have been waiting a very long time to listen to the president. But we have members of the media from all over the world who have been here for a couple of days.
Yeah, lots of preparations for members of the media. Members of our crew got here as early as 6 this morning. We're outside the Barrier Gymnasium, and just to my right is about 9 trucks, satellite and live trucks, just prepared for the president's speech when he gets here a little later today. We will be broadcasting the president's speech live at around 11:50.
late this morning, and I'll have reaction before the speech. Actually, I'll have reaction after the speech from people who are in the audience. I have gotten a chance to talk to a couple of people here outside, and one guy, Isaac, a friend of mine who was able to get me into the Muhlenberg College event where Obama was here last. I wish I could return the favor for him. He came here and is just standing out here without a ticket, hoping that he can get in somehow, but I don't know how lucky he's going to be doing that, because one of the things they're asking people who are standing out here is to get your tickets out and turn your cameras on. I guess they want to make sure that the cameras are operating so there's no anything hokey-pokey. Yeah,
right,
just a security measure. So that's the situation out here. It's chilly, but we're enjoying the sun.
Exactly, and we're going to, as Jaciel said, we're going to let you know exactly what's going on, what the mood is here at El Tri-C. Back to you, Rob and Wendy.
All right, they have a beautiful morning. Thanks, guys, and enjoy the cool air as you wait for everything to happen, as you wait with everybody else, right? All right.
Okay, and as we mentioned, we're expecting the president to speak close to noon at El Tri-C. He's making a few stops along the way, and we'll have more of that for you. And that right now is going to wrap up our special live coverage for now of the president's arrival here in Lehigh Valley.
And we'll be right back on the air starting at 11:30 as the president makes his way to Lehigh Carbon Community College.
And then we will have live coverage of the president's event there, and our live wall-to-wall coverage continues on our website, WFMZ.com. Be sure to check in there throughout the day for special extras that you'll see only on WFMZ.com. So we'll see you again at 11:30.
Until then, good morning.